Writing convincing guitar chords is probably the most difficult thing about programming MIDI guitar until now, because I'm gonna show you everything I've learned from the past 15 years of playing the actual guitar, as well as the last 11 years of producing. And I made a resource of over 200 MIDI guitar chord voicings, which you can drag and drop into your guitar VST of choice, and it is completely for free. You can get that by clicking the Lizzle and the Disgrizzle. And by the end of this video, even if you don't download that, you are going to be making guitar chords like you actually know what you're doing. So, have you ever seen a guitar player do this when tuning? Well, my brother has, and I've annoyed him with that for years, and will continue to do so. The reason we do that is because this note and this note are the same note. What I just played was the 5th fret of the lowest string. The second note I played was the second to lowest string, or the A string, completely open with no frets.
But chill, panic, what does this have to do about programming MIDI?
Everything. Just give me a second. The problem with creating realistic guitar chords with MIDI is that a lot of people program chords that you couldn't actually do on guitar. For instance, if I wanted to do a triad, which was E, G, B, and I wanted to program it like we would do in piano, I would have to play open, the 3rd fret. Oh, I could actually do the 2nd fret of the A string, but I can't play open and the 3rd fret and that all at the same time. This brings us back to that tuning example. This is a very easy to follow rule of thumb to keep in mind when you don't know what to do. Just make sure that every note you do is always at least 5 semitones apart, because a fretboard is just semitones. 0 is E, 5 frets up is A, because that's 5 semitones above E. Let me hop into FL Studio so I can show you what this looks like on a piano roll. I've got the Odin pulled up, and you'll see I've went to the Advanced tab, and I've chosen this to be in the tuning of E standard because that is the most universal guitar tuning. So I'm gonna play a regular triad so you can hear what that sounds like. That is impossible to play on the guitar. Instead, we're gonna go E, B, G, an octave up. And you can see E and B are 5 semitones apart. There's H on my piano roll. I don't know how to change it, sorry. And then the B to the G are at least 5 semitones apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now listen to this. A lot more realistic. Now it's time for the real guitar once more, because there are 3 different types of chords you can play on a guitar: open chords, bar chords, and power chords. Power chords are pretty much bar chords, but you'll see what I mean. Okay, so an open chord is when a chord is played using one of these strings completely open, which means just not having it fretted, as the root note. For example, an A minor chord looks like this, where I have the A string completely open, and then my fingers are just on some of the other strings to make it a chord. But I could also play that A minor like this. Sorry, I never really got down bar chords that well because I mostly played metal, but you get the idea. And they sound different, and they're voiced a little different, which is why in this MIDI guitar chord voicing pack, I decided to make bar chords, open chords, and power chords. Oops, I forgot to tell you what power chords are. Power chords are just the root note, the 5th, and then an octave of the root note. You've heard that in like every rock song ever. So in here I have a full chord library with like every chord you can imagine, but then I also have the quick chords, which is just E minor, E major, all the different E's. So that way you can just transpose it if you don't want to like go through a bunch of MIDI files every time you want to do something. Just know that with the quick chords, it won't always be perfect because there are some nuances, but it'll sound better for sure. Now let's talk about strumming, because strumming is probably the most difficult thing to get sound realistic, and to be honest, I'm not all the way there. I usually use a psychoacoustic bass trick, which I'll talk about in another video probably. Besides that, this is the best I've got. So let's say you have a strumming pattern that's like this. Let's turn that into a E minor chord. So there's a few different things you can do to make this sound more realistic. One is just changing up the velocities a little bit. That'll help get us there. But let's be real, you already knew that one. You can also edit the timing a little bit so it isn't completely quantized, because no guitarist is perfect. And specifically inside of the Odin, they have this humanized knob, which you can set the amount to whatever you think is right. But I think one of the best things you can do is use alternative picking if your guitar VST has that as a key switch. So for the Odin, that is C2. So we're just going to come down here, C2. Another good rule of thumb is like down pick is for low notes, up is for high notes. For example, if I were to play that on real guitar, my pick would be doing this. You can hear on the first two, I want to emphasize the low. On the offbeats, I like to emphasize the high, So just changing up the way you do the picking key switches can help a lot with the realism. And if you want to go really, really deep on how to make MIDI guitar sound realistic, I made an entire masterclass about it with 24 different videos that takes you from no experience to full experience. You could binge it in a weekend. And the first 25 producers who get it 50% off. It's usually $97. It's going to be $47 for them. But you don't need Modern Riff Mastery to make completely realistic MIDI guitars. I don't have some amazing secret in there. I just have all the information that's already out there and that I've learned from my own experience put together in a package that's easy to go through. If you're like, shit, that would be awesome, but I ain't about to drop no money, that's cool. I learned how to do all of this without spending any money, except for the money I spent on VSTs and contact libraries and my time. Let me know in the comments if this helped you and what else you want to learn, because I'm going on a tutorial rampage right now and I am just